Hello, everybody. You're watching Games Done Queer here on Games Done Quick, benefiting Lambda Legal. I am Pleasantly Twisted. Many of you may know me in the ether and some other side programs that you've seen around GDQ. And I am your host, bringing on one of the most important people here at Lambda Legal, Paul D. Castillo. How are you doing today? How are you feeling? Are you ready to raise some money for a great cause?
I'm pumped, Vanessa. I'm excited to have this conversation. Thank you for having us.
Oh, it is not a problem. Fantastic. And for everybody watching at home, this is your reminder. All of your donations will be benefiting Lambda Legal throughout the next 3 days of delicious queer broadcasting. So make sure you're using exclamation point donate in chat to get those donations in. We also have donations down in the panels. We might even have some fantastic prizes. There may even be some incentives live. Who knows? But it's going to be a great time. But right now, we want to learn a little bit more about Lambda Legal, and that's what Paul is going to help us with. So, is it okay, Paul, if I ask you a couple of questions about the charity that we are benefiting for the next 3 days?
Absolutely. Go right ahead. I'm all
Fan-
open.
All right, fantastic. So, the very first thing that everyone will want to know, because a lot of people, they're here to help out, but it always helps to have it come straight from the source. What exactly is Lambda Legal?
Well, Lambda Legal is the oldest and largest legal organization that is committed to the civil rights of LGBTQ plus people and people living with HIV. The way I like to think about Lambda Legal is sometimes we're the last line of defense in court. In the last 4 years, there have been thousands of anti-LGBTQ plus bills introduced. 230 of those have been made law in 27 states. And so Lambda Legal is active in 24 states and at the federal level. So we are fighting for queer youth. We're fighting for anyone targeted by discrimination, for queer families. And we spend our time not only in courts, but also educating the public and in state houses all across the country.
And so you've named a lot of different avenues in there. And I really want to hone in on some of those more because those were really, really high level answers. Like you're helping LGBTQ youth, you're helping HIV people, you're helping with, you said 270 different bills, which is that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a real high number. So I wanted to get a little bit more into the weeds about the kind of work that you do alongside some of that work in the law rooms. I'm making up things entirely, in courtrooms, in offices, and things of that nature. What are some of the things that Lambda Legal provides as services or ways to actually combat some of that egregious content coming out against LGBTQIP plus people?
So we, as I mentioned, yes, we're in courtrooms, but we are also educating the public. I yes, I'm a lawyer by trade, but I've also spent my time trying to connect the law with sort of real world access to justice. So translating those wins that Lambda Legal does in court also into like how does this affect my life? How do I advocate for myself in schools, at my job, in the general public? These are important things to know because unless you actually know your rights, some of those wins don't sort of resonate with people. And so Lambda Legal is pushing forward not only equality and fighting discrimination, but we're also educating. In fact, over 6,000 calls have come in through our help desk. So we have a national help desk
Okay.
that Lambda Legal has, lambdalegal.org/help desk, where people can come ask questions when they're dealing with an issue. And we connect those to lawyers in the community and trying to find educational materials to be able to make those connections. The wins in court with how you can actually use that to make your life better.
So you've mentioned wins in court. And now I have to know, we're going to take a moment to brag for a little bit because we mentioned wins in court, we mentioned wins in education. What are one of the big wins that you have at Lambda Legal that you would love to talk about right now in this moment? And it could be anything. It could be anything you want. It could be something about healthcare. It could be something about an actual court case. What's a big win that Lambda Legal has to its name?
So I can brag about Lambda Legal all day, the freedom to marry and, making our love legal. But what I really am most proud of, particularly a case that I was involved in, is we secured the first passport with an X gender marker in the United States for non-binary, trans, and intersex folks. So that was a case that I was personally involved in, and
Oh,
I am just enormously proud of that case.
oh my God. No, sorry. That just sent me like a little bit of chills because as someone who identifies as gender queer, that's huge because almost all of my identification still has female on it. And it's a very, very weird kind of conundrum to be in, especially even talking about queerness in the sphere of non-binary and gender fluidness and gender queerness and all that jazz, because it's a very conflicting and confusing conversation even out there. And I know some people in chat are going to have thoughts about that too, because when it comes to the idea of being gender non-conforming, it is complicated. It is so complicated because there's so many aspects of me that I like as they are, but there are days that woman just doesn't cut it for me. A lot of times I just feel like I'm there. And it's very odd because when I myself dress up very feminine coded, so to speak, is when I feel the most non-binary.
So,
Such a bizarre state of things. And then like right now in this moment, I feel like mostly feminine, but that's also because there's a little bit of anger in my spirit. I don't know if those two things are attached, but we're yeah, I'm derailing a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stay on task and look at my note card of questions. So we've talked about some of these things with you getting the X marker on passports and all these wonderful wins and all this wonderful work that you do. Something I wanted you to be able to talk to the community about a little bit more was how do donations during GD Queer help your cause both right now and in the long term?
yeah, so the donations that we receive literally, quite literally, fund the fight for equality. So it powers our cases, it trains our attorneys, it keeps us active in court. So in the short term, it keeps the train on the tracks with the litigation we've already started to defend the attacks against us that in all these states that we are active in, and against the federal government, who has also, whether it's an executive order or an actual law, it continues that fight moving forward. But as a long term, it's sort of an investment in and strengthening our legal foundation for the next generation of rights. As I said, we talked a little bit about the passport case, and we're back in court today defending that right. So
Oh,
even though we have secured rights for LGBTQ plus people, we have to defend those rights time and time again. So equality is never achieved. Each generation has to, for themselves, assert those rights, know what those rights are, and so they can live as their authentic selves.
And I think it's important to highlight the piece where it's like it's an ongoing battle. It's something where, as you kind of highlighted, that win is so critical and so important. But because we know the world that we live in, we also know that there are people who are going to see that and say, I'm going to fight to reverse that. And so, chat, your donations help ensure that those types of wins, and it not only just continue and they support Lambda Legal, but they ensure that those things stay intact. And that's the big thing about a lot of that conversation, I feel, is making sure that those wins go unchallenged, well, as unchallenged as they can, because they're going to remain challenged. But at the end of the day, it's like as long as we have the continuous community support behind that, that challenge will always be something that we can just keep at bay. At
You
least that's
know,
how I view it. I
I,
could be soapboxing ever so slightly.
I have been in the civil rights world for many years throughout my career, and it's when people let their guard down, right?
Mm,
When people let their guard down, that there starts creating some opportunities for people who would discriminate against all of us.
mm,
Um, And so we need to be vigilant about kind of the attacks, be realistic about what we can like achieve and kind of hold the line. And that's what Lambda Legal does. It is there to hold the line, to move forward in steps where we can move forward and just ensure that people understand that we can't let our guard down and sort of open up the door for people to, again, erase us, which is what's happening right now. People are trying to erase, particularly trans, non-binary folks, but the entire LGBTQ community. I mean, basic rights of the threats of marriage is also a conversation we're having again. It shouldn't be that way.
Oh my gosh. Well, I do have a few more questions for you because I'm sure that chat is at the bare minimum doing one of these. Doing one of these. At least I hope that chat is, yeah, y'all are being cute, right? Chat, you wouldn't be not cute during this, I would hope. But I wanted to know as well, we've talked a lot about all this work and all these wonderful things, and we've kind of both soapbox. What are some other ways that people can get involved with your cause? We've got the donations that we're going to get from this event. We've got the visibility. We have the education. We have the website. We have your hotline. What are some other ways people can get involved and help out your cause?
Yeah, so people don't have to be lawyers to make a difference. One of the things that you can do is share our All Rise campaign with others. Follow Lambda Legal on social. If you know somebody facing discrimination, point them to our help desk. But we need to talk about what's going on. We need to face this discrimination. We need to show up. We need to show up in the streets when there are protests. We need to be able to educate our neighbors, our friends, our allies, because again, every time we rise together, equality takes a step forward. And that's what we want to do.
So I know that you thought you were going to escape this completely. I kind of lied to you a little bit. You're not going to escape me entirely. This is very much games done quick. And so we play video games and we play them very quickly. You'll have to tell the audience for our final question to kind of put a nice little bow on all of this very serious conversation we've had. What's one of your all-time favorite video games? And there's no shame here. You're safe. It could be old school. It could be new school. Doesn't matter. What's one of your all-time favorites?
So I think I have one for every generation, right?
Okay.
So let's go for like when I was growing up, it would have been sort of Dig Dug.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think sort of more recently I was really into Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, I think you might have activated chat's trap card.
Didn't
No, that's a good
mean to
thing.
do
It's a
that.
great thing.
Okay, good,
That's a great
good.
thing because here at Games and Quick, we love Kingdom Hearts. Now, unfortunately, I don't think there's any in this schedule, which is shocking if I'm being really honest. But we do have a lot of Kingdom Hearts love. We have a lot of RPG love. We also have a lot of just love for every genre in all of these games. But I do unfortunately have to stop us there because while this conversation has been lovely, and I'm sure many people have lots to say, and I could stay on here for hours on end, which nobody asked for, we do have to go ahead and let this show get on the road. So, Paul, thank you so much for all of your time, your efforts, your energy. Thank you for all the hard work that you do and for defending the rights of people like me and many of us that are watching, donating, helping, and contributing, and even engaging here at Games Done Quick and making sure that we have a brighter future ahead of us. Again, we're going to go ahead and get started. You're watching Games Done Queer here at Games Done Quick, the first charity fundraiser benefiting LGBTQIP plus people, benefiting Lambda Legal in specific. Let's go ahead and get some games started, shall we?